So, welcome to the Parametric Object Creation webinar. My name is Juji, and a little info about me before we start. I'm a GDL developer at Graphisoft, meaning that I work on the ARCHICAD library content in my daily work. I know that Rubia mentioned before me, but I would just like to mention it again that we have a Parametric Object Factory challenge on the community website, and I hope that more people will have the courage to enter it after this session. Just some general info about my presentation. My goal here today is to give you an overview of our tools and help you decide which to choose. And hopefully I will also give a little kickstart to your knowledge. My target audience with my presentation is, well, all ARCHICAD users, regardless of the level of knowledge. And as I've said, possible challenge participants. And the nature of this session is, it's just a simple presentation. I have no follow-along exercise prepared, but I will provide you with a handout, and you can also watch the recording after this session. And as Rubia mentioned, if you have any questions, please use the questions panel. We will answer them either in oral or in written form. Also, you've seen the agenda before, I think, but just a reminder that we will have a quick introduction on the tools, and then we will talk about them in detail. And after all that, we will have a Q&A session for your questions. So the first question for today is, what are parametric objects? We all know static objects that are, created from morphs in ARCHICAD. They are modeled, they are simple, and if you want to change anything on them, you need to redo the whole thing, and it's not so user-friendly, I'd say. On the other hand, parametric objects are like a Swiss Army knife of objects. They are complex, and they have the benefit of variability, and they are much more user-friendly, and you can edit so many things on them. It's just up to the creator what you can change on your parametric objects. So it can be material, size, anything you can imagine. And we all know that objects are important in our everyday lives as architects, because we can only present our plans in the best way if we have the right object for the plan. But we also know that there is always something missing. There's just no way that we have everything in the ARCHICAD library that we need. So today I prepared an overview of the tools we have: GDL, PARAM-O, and the library part maker. We can all use them to create GSM objects that can be used in ARCHICAD with our plan files. So a little help on which tool you should use. First of all, we have the library part maker. It's an easy to learn tool that basically just gives your models a little bit of facelift. So you model your objects and they, become more variable. You will have your object work with model view options, for example. So it's easy to learn, but it doesn't have a wide range of use, in my opinion. On the other hand, we have PARAM-O. In my opinion, it's a fun to learn tool because you have the visual process of basically coding, just you don't have to write actually code. So I think it's a fun to learn thing. It's good to play around with. And you can create various parametric objects with it, but it has limitations. And on the other hand, we have GDL, which is, as you see, its range of use is, well, I'm not saying it's unlimited because it's not, but in ARCHICAD, it's the most amazing tool that you can use for parametric objects. It has the most options for your objects. but you will need to learn code and it takes some time to get used to. But then you can create many complex objects. You will have the option to create custom UIs for these objects, and you can add many hotspots to your objects as well. So GDL is great. And I hope this slide helps you to decide which you should use. I think it's very subjective still to say that some of them is easy to use, because I work with GDL every day. To me, GDL is the easiest. So it's just with the eye of the average ARCHICAD user, in my opinion. Okay, first, the library part maker. What is the library part maker? It's an add-on in ARCHICAD. We have it since version 19, and it basically turns your 2D and 3D drawings into a complex object, and you will have to just model it, and there's no coding required. And please bear in mind that it's not in all local versions yet. But the library part maker has benefits, and these are the followings. Yes, I've already said it's quick to learn. It works with model view options, and you can use it to create specific objects that comply with your local standards, or you can create manufacturer specific objects as well. And the library part maker offers these subtypes that you can choose for your objects. And these subtypes provide you with specific settings after you created your object. We have also a generic object subtype that is just it's loaded with basic settings, so you can use it to create simple furniture pieces, for example. Okay, just a quick library part maker 101 that we have time for. First of all, where do you find library part maker in ARCHICAD? Well, it's under the design menu, under design extras, and after you open it, you will see the following user interface popping up for you. Now let's see the workflow. First of all, you have to, in our case, add a new library part name. Of course, if you have a work going on, you can select that as well, but in our case, we need to add a new name. After you add your name, you will have to mark your design area where you will work on your library part. As I mentioned, you will only have to use 2D and 3D drawings to create these objects, but please bear in mind that you have to draw all the detail levels of your object. So in my case, I have 3 detail levels and 3D and 2D as well. And after you are done with your drawings, you will have to mark their origins with the level dimension tool. So in our case, my window will look like this in the 3D space. And after you are done with drawing, you will have to select each component of your library part and mark them. So I selected my schematic model and I marked it. And now as I select it, you can see that it's highlighted there. So you have to do that with each component, and please make sure that you select the level dimension tools and result with the detail level as well. Okay, after you are done with marking your components, you can add some details to your library part. For example, properties. You can import that from a spreadsheet as well. I just use the basic one here. You can add an author and an image as well. I did not select one in our case. And after you are done, you just select the subtype and check if your work is correct. And you are now ready to save your object. I just saved it in the embedded library, but of course, feel free to save it somewhere else. Okay, and now let's see the end result. On the left, you can see the object selected and its user interface that was created by the library part maker. Because I created a window, you can see that I can add specific accessories that are related to my window, and they work well with my object. And on the right, you can see me placing the window in a wall. And after that, it will work with the model view option settings as well. So I changed the detail level to something else, and my window will react to it. Okay, so the resources you can find on ARCHICAD's library part maker. We have the official ARCHICAD documentation, and we have detailed text on the library part maker. I think it's a good place to start because it's very detailed, really. And also we have, as Rubia mentioned, a free object making course that was prepared by the Singapore office, and you can access it for free with our discount code in Graphisoft Learn during the challenge. Okay, PARAM-O. So what is PARAM-O? It's also an add-on, and it provides you with a graphical interface to code GDL without actually coding. You will see what I mean later. It's available since ARCHICAD 24 Update 3, and it will be helpful for you to understand parametric logic. So I think even if you decide to start learning GDL, it's good to first maybe play around in PARAM-O to understand it. Okay, quick PARAM-O one-on-one session. Where do you find PARAM-O in ARCHICAD? Well, it's under the Libraries and Objects menu, and to create a new PARAM-O object, you just click New PARAM-O Object, and this neat UI will pop up for you. On the left side, you can see your inputs. On the middle, you have the visual coding interface, the space where you will put your inputs. And on the right side, you have your 3D window. Okay, the basic concept of PARAM-O is nodes. You have to understand them because, well, you use them to create your objects. As you see, I click it on the left side and it appears in the middle. That's what is a node, that rectangle, and on the right side, the 3D representation appears. We have many node types that we can use for our objects, and we can edit them as well after placing them, as you see on this slide. You can edit its name, its visibility, its attributes like the pen and the surface, and also in my case, it's a cube, it's a block, so I can edit its dimensions as well. We have many node types. I think after a while, you will use the search bar to find them, but first get familiar with them. We have different types. We have, for example, shapes, transformations, but we can also call other GSM objects to create furniture layouts. Okay, well, obviously, it's not enough to just place the nodes because we will have to connect them, and connecting them creates it creates some kind of logic between the nodes. And well, I can also talk about this for hours because it's very complex and very interesting to see how they react to each other. But I think it's the best if you just see it for yourself, try it, play around and see what happens to your nodes when you connect one with the other. And I think after a while, you'll get used to it. It's just, it takes practice, in my opinion. And we also have an example project today prepared by Vimal from the Singapore office. And thank you, Vimal, for this. In this video, he creates a simple table with PARAM-O. You can see how he creates the tabletop first and then the leg for the table. And I think, well, it's a sped up video, but you can still see that it's not a long process to create a simple table object in PARAM-O. And now you can see it's editable. Okay, so obviously I couldn't tell everything about PARAM-O, but fortunately we have great resources on them. We just had the Get Started with PARAM-O course released. You can access that with the PARAM-O discount code as well during the challenge. It's on the Graphisoft Learn site. And we also have, well, I'm saying the object making course again, because it also has videos on PARAM-O as well. So it's a great way to start that as well. And don't forget that they are available until the 22nd of January, until the challenge ends. So make sure to check them out before. Okay, and the most important, well, to me, is GDL. And what is GDL? Well, it's, as the name suggests, it's a geometric description language. It's a coding language that works in ARCHICAD and was created by ARCHICAD developers. Well, with GDL, everyone says that it's hard to learn and it's there's a lot of mystery around it. But let's see what you actually need to learn GDL. First of all, obviously, you need a computer with ARCHICAD. The great thing about GDL is that you don't need the newest version of ARCHICAD necessary, and you don't need a very powerful computer to create source code. So just your good old computer with an ARCHICAD version on it. It's best to use the newest, obviously, but and everything will do. Next, you will need English knowledge, which I assume you have now that you are here on this presentation listening to me. The next one you need is geometry knowledge, which I also assume you have now that you, knowing that you are probably an architect, you know what you have to know for GDL about geometry, because we will define various shapes to create our objects. And you will also need to know coordinate geometry knowledge because, well, we will define these geometric shapes in the 2D and the 3D space using coordinates. But I think a basic knowledge of these two is enough. Well, programming knowledge is obviously not essential, and you will see that you don't really have to know a lot of programming concepts to learn GDL, but if you are familiar with any programming languages, I think you are good to start GDL because you will understand the documentation and it will be easy to learn it with that. And lastly, the most important thing is obviously motivation to learn. But I also hope that you have that as well now that you are here. And I hope that I will be able to motivate you even more to learn GDL. So I think we got that covered as well. Okay, so as I mentioned, you need to know a few programming concepts. I don't want to take the time to explain them, but I've prepared a list for you to save it, and you will also have that in the handout. So I think you need to understand these concepts, and then you will be good to understand the GDL documentation as well. First of all, we have data types that you have to understand. You need to know what variables are to create actual code. You will have to understand operations. So, well, using the plus sign, the equal sign, and so on. You will have to know what commands are. So basically, you will have to know how to tell the computer what to do. You will have to understand conditions because they are an important part of coding. Without them, there's no point to coding, in my opinion. And we have loops. You should understand the for loop. It's a very basic programming concept. So try to find the material on it and try to understand it. After this session, you will have to use subroutines in your code. So you have to understand the concept of that. And you have to also use comments in your code to make it more understandable for other users, other coders. Okay, I think, I don't want to take more time on this. These are a few concepts. You don't have to, know them inside out. Just understand them for learning to learn GDL. Okay, I also have obviously a quick one-on-one session on GDL as well. So let's jump into it. So first of all, where do you find GDL in ARCHICAD? Where can you see it? As I mentioned, it's very widely used in ARCHICAD, and I just wanted to show you all the tools that use GDL at some level. So I think it's good to know GDL because you will get the most out of ARCHICAD if you do that. Okay. And so where do you actually see your code? Well, it's in the GDL editor that you can access by going to the Libraries and Objects menu and clicking the New Object menu, or you can also select an already placed object and you can choose the Open Object. And to have this toolbar at your hand, we also have a toolbar that's called Edit GDL Library Parts, and you will have this neat toolbar for you to access the library parts easier. And after you open your library part, you will see this neat UI. This is the GDL editor. First of all, I would like to talk to you about its most important part, the parameters. Well, obviously, parameters are the reason we like GDL, and well, we are here to learn about parametric objects, so they are very important to us. Well, they are editable by the user, so that's why we need them, obviously, and we have different types of them, and they are based on your working unit settings, so please bear that in mind, and choose the best type for your needs, obviously. And to add the parameter, there are simple steps to it. You just go to the parameters page, click new, and you have to name it and then choose its type. You can also add the name if you would like. That will pop up for the user to understand what they are editing. And you can also add its default value here. Just a little bit about parameters. I prepared a simple plan of a table here. It's good to start your code like this to have your plan on paper. And I've wrote the variable names in here. And also you can see the types of the parameters here as well. I think it's a great way to start because you know what your goal is, what parameters you need to add, and it will be easier to refer to them in your code if you know what you want your end result to look like. The next important thing about GDL is the script types we have. It's very important that we have to script the 2D representation and the 3D representation separately. The 2D is used for the 2D symbol, the floor plan, and the 3D is used for the 3D and the section elevation views as well. I think these two are the most important script types. You will be good for a while if you only use these two for your object. But we also have the parameter script. It's used for parameter limitations, and we have many additional options. I don't want to go into detail right now, but it's good to learn parameter script after a while to make your objects more user-friendly. We also have the master script. It's used mostly for code organization. You will see it after a while of coding that you need the master script for more complicated objects as well. And the other one I would like to mention is the interface script. It is used to create the custom interface for your GDL objects, and you can also code model view options using it. So regarding your needs, maybe you would want to learn to script the interface as well, but that's just a nice to have, in my opinion. Okay, just a little bit about the semantics of the GDL as a coding language. It's a lot like English spoken word, so it's sentence-like scripting. What I mean by that is, here I have this code that that tells the computer to draw a line on our cabinet if it has a door. Well, the code looks like that, and I have on the bottom the meaning. So if has door, then draw door, and else don't draw door, and I'm just ending my code here. Yeah, so as you see, I don't have an else part on my code, but basically if the statement I have there, so it's not true, so we don't have a door, then, well, it won't draw a door for us. So that's why I wrote that in the meaning part. Okay, another thing to know about GDL, it's not case sensitive, so you can use capital letters or non-capital letters for your code, but it's better to, as you see my code, to have some kind of rules for yourself, at least, to make your code more visually pleasing and easier to read. And, well, I think you can guess that as well, that we have numbers, letters, and also some special characters that have special meanings. It's just good to know that these are the things you will have to use in your code. And, well, I think it's also obvious that you have to read it left to right, top to bottom. So it's again like English in most cases. And I also want to mention that you don't need to indent your code. It's also just used to indicate hierarchy and to make your code more readable. Okay, I think these are the basic things to know about GDL if you want to learn it. And I would just like to show you a simple example where a cabinet object is being coded. First, its 2D symbol with its door. And then the 3D, the panels of the cabinet. And we add the option of shelves. And then we create a few types of doors. And the last part is obviously, as I've said, a little bit of organization and facelift to the object. So as you see, it's not a complicated process. Obviously, learning this process is the complicated part, but after you get used to it, it's just like modeling anything in ARCHICAD, just with written code. Okay, so what resources do we have on GDL? First of all, the Bible of GDL developers is the GDL reference guide. It's the official documentation. It is updated with every ARCHICAD version, and you can access it directly from ARCHICAD. It's a good place to start if you don't know how to use something and you are not sure of anything regarding GDL. But some people find it hard to read. So we also have something called the GDL Center. It has many interesting articles on various topics in GDL. It also has a learning page that has a very nice structure for you to start learning concepts in GDL. So I recommend you to check it out because obviously the reference guide is also available on the website, and we have many interesting tips and tricks if you are a more advanced user with GDL. Okay, and your best friend will be the community site, because in coding there's always something that you cannot figure out on your own. So use the developer forum if you have any questions that you just cannot figure out. And I just like to emphasize that always ask for help with detailed explanation of your problem. Attach your script, attach as many photos as you can so we can better understand your problem. And who knows, maybe you will see me answering your questions there as well. Okay, just a few closing thoughts after our session. To your learning journey is my first recommendation is find your goal, obviously. Why do you need those parametric objects? What kind of objects do you need? And if you know your goal, you can choose a tool for your needs after knowing what you need. Obviously, I've mentioned this before, but put your plan on paper, because if you have a drawing of it and you know what you want to create, it will be much easier to create that. You can even create steps for yourself, on how to create your objects. It's up to you. And, well, obviously, start learning. And by that, I mean check out the resources we have, check out the resources I mentioned. We will have the links in the handout. And it's all about learning. Yes, I know it's not easy, but you will see that it's beneficial for you as an architect to learn parametric object creation. And lastly, do not be afraid to make mistakes, because you have no idea how many mistakes I make every day in my work. But the best thing is that I can learn from them, and I get better and better with every mistake I make. So please, just it's a process, and it's the way to go. So I wish you good luck with it. And with that, I thank you for your attention and thank you for coming today. I hope my presentation was helpful for you, and I know it was very brief, but I hope that at least I gave you some clarity on the tools, and now you are more excited to learn how to create these objects yourself.